Welcome to another edition of Time About the Movies Flashback. We're flashing back to October 21st, 1988, where we have 7 movies to look at, so we have a lot of films to get to. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and jump on into it. We'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is the return of Michael Myers' Halloween 4.
10 years ago, Halloween, evil had a shape, terror had a night, and now he's back. Halloween 4, rated R.
So, of course, this is the 4th installment of the Halloween series, and if you remember from the other Halloween films, Halloween 2 took place on the same night as the first Halloween film. So basically, even though they came out in 81, that's what took place in 78. Then with Halloween 3, that was supposed to be an anthology series where Michael Myers wasn't an issue. And they essentially brought him back for this film because of the poor reception Halloween 3 got back in 82. But of course, that film has gone on to become a cult classic in its own right. And awakening from his 10-year coma, Michael Myers returns to Haddonfield on Halloween Eve to kill his 7-year-old niece, while also being persuaded by Dr. Loomis, once again played by Donald Pleasance. The niece is played by Danielle Harris, who you recognize as the voice of Eliza's sister on The Wild Thornberrys, among with other projects as well. But she's also been in the Halloween films after this film came out, the Rob Zombie ones, and, I can't remember if she was also in the newest Halloween trilogy. I'd have to double check again, but we kind of delved into Halloween 5 the last time we looked at the 5th film, which came out in 1989, and I don't remember liking that film too much. In fact, honestly, I don't remember liking a whole lot of most of the Halloween films. They weren't really my thing. But I did remember Halloween 3 actually being pretty good for what it was. And, of course, the original Halloween's a classic, so is Halloween 2. This one, like I said before, I thought this one was just okay. I thought it was interesting to have them bring Michael Myers back in here. And, it's been 10 years since the last time he's been in this world. And it was going to be kind of interesting to see how they bring him back into this universe, but they did a pretty decent job with it. The director of this is Dwight H. Little, who we've talked about several of his other movies he's done. He did The Phantom of the Opera, Marked for Death, Rapid Fire, Free Willy 2, Murder at 1600. This was kind of the first film where everybody kind of knew who he was as a director. And for the most part, I thought he did a pretty decent job with it. I mean, this is pretty much a standard Halloween film. Michael Myers is back in town, so basically he's got to go around killing people and going after Jamie Lee Curtis's younger daughter in this movie, even though Laurie Strode is not even mentioned once in this film. And in fact, I don't even think she even appears in this, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I don't remember her being in there. But for this film, I mean, I remember seeing it. I thought it was just okay. It wasn't really doing anything that was really, like, unique or different or anything exciting, but it is the best of this series of films that comes up here. Like, after this is Halloween 5, which we talked about before, and Halloween the Curse of Michael Myers, which was pretty much just a jumbled mess all around here, and then they eventually brought Laurie Strode back into the fold with Halloween H2O, and then so on and so forth. But, yeah, as far as I remember from this film, I thought it was just alright, but it was one that I never really went back to a whole lot. When it comes to the Halloween films, I always go back to the first 3 films. Those are the ones I think stand out the most overall, but this, it's passable. It's what you'd expect from a film called Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers. It pretty much gives you everything that it tells you there. So that's Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. Michael Caine and Ben Kingsley in Without a Clue. Another movie that didn't really do too well when it first came out, but it has gone on to have this kind of cult following to it. Of course, this is based off of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes character, but in this version, the roles are reversed. You have Dr. John Watson, who's played by Ben Kingsley, who's the brilliant detective, and while Sherlock Holmes is Michael Caine, he's an actor hired to pose as the detective so that Watson can protect his reputation as a physician. It's a really creative idea overall. The director of this is Tom Eberhard, who we've talked about some of his movies in the original Time About the Movie Show. We talked about Gross Anatomy, Captain Ron. He also did Night of the Comet, which we'll get to eventually when we get to 84. This is actually the second movie he directed in 1988, the Keanu Reeves film The Night Before, which I assume we're going to get to that one. I don't know if that's a TV movie or what, but it's on here for 88, so eventually we will get to that one. But like I said, when this came out, it was not really as well received as they probably thought it was, even though this was written by two guys who are devoted Sherlock Holmes fans, or as they call them, Sherlockians, which is kind of amusing there. So they knew what they were doing here, and I thought it's a very interesting idea, switching the roles around, having Ben Kingsley be the Sherlock Holmes of the storyline while playing John Watson, while you have Michael Caine as Sherlock Holmes, and it has a lot of charm and charisma to it, and it works mostly because of the fact that Michael Caine and Ben Kingsley are really damn good actors, and they work together very well here. The chemistry here works so well. It's a fun idea overall. It was probably something that was maybe too ahead of its time, and maybe kind of too close to the other Sherlock Holmes movies we were getting around that time. I mean, we had The Great Mouse Detective, which isn't really a Sherlock Holmes film, but it's largely influenced by Sherlock Holmes, and then we had Young Sherlock Holmes, which came out a couple years before this, and I don't know, maybe it was just too much for too many people, but it has gone on to have a cult following over the years. It has been better received by critics, and rightfully so. I think it is a very solid film overall, and one that definitely deserves a lot more attention. And speaking of The Great Mouse Detective, its composer, Henry Mancini, is the composer for this film, so you got that too. Great Henry Mancini music, so yeah, overall, this is actually a pretty fun film. I'd say definitely check it out if you haven't seen it already. So, that's without a clue. So, on to the next movie, Julia Roberts in Mystic Pizza.
Mystic Pizza is the new romantic comedy hit audiences everywhere are falling in love with. I loved it.
It was just pure enjoyment. The movie was fantastic. It just brought out every emotion. If he really loved me, he'd wait. We cried. All three of us cried. Wait, you see these guys. Oh, he is cute. Yeah. For anybody in love.
That's right. Experience Mystic Pizza. Now playing at a specially selected theater near you.
God, I miss the days when you had commercials of people just coming out of a movie theater that for some reason was just playing that one movie over and over again. Because you see the posters back there and talking about how much they love the film. And it kind of worked because this film actually did turn out to be pretty good. You have the story here of it's a coming-of-age story of three young Portuguese-American friends who work at a pizza parlor in a seaside Connecticut town. And it's interesting, Roger Ebert said at the time, I have a feeling that Mystic Pizza may someday become known for the movie stars that it showcased back before they became stars. And well, you have Annabeth Gish, you have Julia Roberts, Lily Taylor, Vincent D'Onofrio, which, again, Vincent D'Onofrio, pretty much everyone knew who he was at this point, Conchita Ferro. I mean, there are notable names in here. Matt Damon, this was his first film that he ever started when he started his career as an extra. So Roger Ebert was definitely onto something here. And of course, Julia Roberts, this was the film that kind of launched her into superstardom, because shortly after that she'd do Steel Magnolia, she'd do Pretty Woman, and then her career takes off from there. And rightfully so. The film works very well here. It's a fun coming-of-age story. There is a lot of very good charm and charisma between all the leading actors. It's a nicely told story. The writing is top-notch. Amy Holden-Jones is one of the writers on this. She wrote the Beethoven films. Donald Petrie, we talked about a number of his films. Grumpy Old Men, Richie Rich, The Associate, My Favorite Martian, Opportunity Knocks. We talked about a lot of his films. This is his first movie he ever directed, and it's a good film to showcase what he can do as a director. It's a film that it's very fun. It's a very fun film. You watch it mostly because of the great performances involved in here. It's a top-notch film. It's a film that you should check out to see some of the early film works of some of these big stars that would come later down the road. It's a really good film. I can't recommend it enough. Mystic Pizza, definitely check that one out. So, Mystic Pizza is that with that. So let's go ahead and move on to the next film. Danny Glover and Gene Hackman in Bat 21.
It's hot. They're walking him out into the minefield. Get him to tell where I am. I'm gonna give myself up. That was my friend laying in the mud. Now get back on foot. Gene Hackman. I've been in the service most of my adult life. It's the first time I ever saw any war. Danny Glover. He's being told I can't do something.
War isn't always about enemies. Bat 21, based on a true story.
I mean, we were still in that let's capture the zeitgeist period of time, because Platoon had just won Best Picture a couple years prior to this, so everyone was just like, let's make our own Vietnam War film. And sure enough, you have a story here based off of a book by novelist and retired U.S. Air Force Colonel William C. Anderson, and it's basically set during the Vietnam War. It's a dramatization upon the rescue of a U.S. air navigator shot down behind enemy lines in Vietnam, and Gene Hackman and Danny Glover are the two leads in here, which coincidentally Gene Hackman started a film called Behind Enemy Lines, where he'd be pretty much doing the same thing, except in, I can't remember, because it's been a while since I've seen Behind Enemy Lines, but it's a very similar premise to that, except this one takes place in the Vietnam War, and the other one takes place in another time of war, which, like I said, I can't remember too much right now, because it just came into the top of my head right now without thinking about it, but, I mean, it's a decent film for what it is, but you could definitely tell that they were trying to capture the zeitgeist of Platoon a couple of years prior, and everyone was just like, let's make our own movie about the Vietnam War, and sometimes it would work, sometimes not so much. This is one of those ones that I think was not so much, because it's not a bad film per se, but you could definitely tell they were trying to capture the Platoon feel. The poster looks like something you would see for Platoon, but it's not. It's a different movie altogether, and it's not a bad movie per se. It's just one that just kind of like, it's there. It's clearly there to win Oscars, but it didn't do. But you at least get a couple of good performances from Gene Hackman and Danny Glover to at least make it somewhat enjoyable. And it is a decent film overall, but it's one that you see it once, you think it's alright, but it's one you probably never want to watch again. That's definitely what I feel about it. Whenever I see this film, it's like, I like it, but I don't really want to watch it again, because I don't really feel like I really want to see it again. But, like I said, if you want to see some underrated Gene Hackman and Danny Glover performances, here you go. I mean, this is one that should work out well for that. But other than that, not much more to say about that one. Bat 21. So, on to the next movie, and that is David Mamet's Things Change. This is David Mamet's follow-up to his film that kind of introduced him to the world, House of Games. And you have the story here where Don Amici plays an Italian-American shoe shiner named Gino, who has a remarkable similarity to a certain mafia don, and is paid to take the rap for a murder. And then he meets this other two-bit gangster, played by Joe Mantegna, on probation, who's given a chance for redemption by guarding Gino for the weekend. But instead of sitting around a dingy hotel room, Jerry decides to give Gino a weekend to remember, taking him to Lake Tahoe, Jerry bragging to his friends of his important charge, as well as Gino's dignified, quiet demeanor soon result in much complications for them both. And this is David Mamet at his best, man. Joe Mantegna and Don Amici, they work off each other so well here. And the casting overall is top-notch. Robert Prosky, Jonathan Katz, Ricky Jay, Mike Nussbaum, J.J. Johnston, and David Mamet, man. Like, this is a film that, when you think of David Mamet's more underrated works, this is probably it. It feels a little bit it feels a little more mainstream than I think most of Mamet's other films, but it works fine for what it is. It's a solidly entertaining film, and it works because of the two leads. Amici and Mantegna, these are two really phenomenal actors, and they're working off against each other so well here. The writing overall is top-notch. This is exactly what you think of when you think of a good David Mamet film. And, I mean, there's really not much more to say about it. It's David Mamet doing what David Mamet does best, so that's Things Change. Maybe one of his more underrated movies, honestly, but it's one you should definitely check out if you like some of his other works. So with that said, on to the next movie, and that is Tapeheads.
Hi, I'm Ivan Alexei with Video Aces. We make rock videos. You could have find time to look at this or call me. Your name was Skip. Ivan, give us a call.
So you got John Cusack and Tim Robbins, who they've been fired from their jobs as security guards, so they decide to form this company called Video Aces. Using Josh's talents and Ivan's business savvy, they attempt to hit it big in the business while doing projects they want to do. Among those who cross their paths are Norman Mart, an extremely right-wing presidential candidate, Samantha Gregory, a scheming music reporter, and Mo Fuzz, a producer willing to give them a chance or three if they'll work on spec. And, I don't really know too much about this movie, although I do know it has a ton of celebrity cameos. I mean, not just different musicians, different musicians, but you have people like Mary Crosby from Dallas, character actors Doug McClure, Lyle Alzado, of course, from the Raiders, Connie Stevens, Don Cornelius, Courtney Love, Weird Al Yankovic. I mean, just so many notable names in this film alone. I mean, But other than that, though, there's not really a whole lot I remember about this film. I've only seen like little bits and pieces here and there, so I can't really say for certain if it's any good or not. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 60%, which I know I keep saying Rotten Tomatoes is not the best source for this, but I've never heard really anybody talk about it. I know this poster that I'm looking at right now. I've seen it at places before, but it's just a film that I don't really have a whole lot of recollections on, so I can't really say for certain if it's any good or not, but it's probably not that bad, honestly. So that's Tapeheads. So let's go ahead and move on to the last film we have here. Ken Russell's The Lair of the White Worm.
Got fat and growed an awful size, with great big teeth and a great big mouth and great big goggle eyes. So John set out and caught the beast and cut it into halves, and that soon stopped it eating babes and sheep and lambs and calves.
From the director of Altered States, the creator of Dracula, a new movie of venom and vengeance. Ken Russell's The Lair of the White Worm.
I'm famished. We stumble away for a bite.
Watch out for your acid.
Man, this desperately has to be another one of those movies that was way too ahead of its time. And sure enough, it did not get the best reviews, but later went on to have a massive cult following. And I mean, how can you not have some of those visuals that they have here? This is loosely based off of Bram Stoker's 1911 novel of the same name. It follows the residents in and around a rural English manor that are tormented by this ancient priestess after the skull of a servant that she worships is unearthed by an archaeologist. You have Amanda Donahue, Hugh Grant in one of his early film roles. It's interesting because we just had on time about the movies Notting Hill with Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant. Now we have two movies with them this weekend from back in 1988. Catherine Oxenberg, Peter Capaldi, Sammy Davis, not Sammy Davis Jr., and directed by Ken Russell, who gave us Altered States, and also did, what else did he do? Crimes of Passion. Definitely a different take for him to go from going from Altered States to something like this, but I mean, those visuals alone just make me want to see this movie, because man, this looks like a stylish as hell movie that really just looks incredible on so many different levels. I mean, this just looks like an amazingly fun, over-the-top horror comedy, and it's just like, I really don't have much more to say about it, man. This movie looks so bizarre, so weird, but it's right up my alley, man. I like this kind of stuff. I mean, like, I've been on kind of a Dracula kick as of late, because we had Renfield earlier in the year, and we just had The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which that was the superior of the two films, but, I don't know, I really want to check this one out. I mean, I'm curious to check this one out. Just those visuals alone, man, like, I can't wait to see this movie at some point. If I can find it at a good price online, I'll definitely check it out. But, yeah, if you've seen it, let me know down below if you thought it was good, because it looks like it could be pretty interesting. So, not much more to say about that one. That's Ken Russell's The Lair of the White Worm. So that's going to wrap up another time about the movie's Flashback. When we meet, we'll look at October 14th, 1988 on the next episode with The Accused, Jodie Foster and Kelly LeBrock, the film that won Jodie Foster her first of 2 Academy Awards. We'll take a look at that film. We'll also look at Stan Winston's Pumpkinhead, which came out that weekend, Madame Sutska, and also Another Woman. So 4 films overall to look at. We'll definitely delve into those on the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I'm off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.